There is a particular kind of person who takes up slightly more space than they've earned. Not loudly, not rudely. They simply occupy the room at a volume that doesn't quite match what they've demonstrated, and everyone around them makes small, quiet adjustments to accommodate it. You've watched this happen. You've probably felt the low-grade irritation of watching it happen. What you may not have noticed is the moment you adjusted too. That adjustment is where this begins. The competent silence people who have genuinely mastered something tend to go quiet right before the conversation reaches the edge of their expertise. Not because they're uncertain, because they're aware of what certainty actually requires. And they feel the weight of that requirement in their chest before they speak. You've done this. You are in a meeting or a dinner conversation or a job interview, and the topic grazes something you actually know deeply. Something inside you slows down. You choose words more carefully. You hedge in ways that the person across from you, who knows considerably less, does not. Here is what that pattern means that you probably haven't let yourself see. The more you know, the more precisely you can map the territory of your own uncertainty. The less someone knows, the smaller their map. So the blank spaces don't register. They don't feel the edges they can't see. Researchers who study cognitive bias have documented this with uncomfortable consistency. People in the early stages of learning something routinely rate their own performance higher than those with years of actual practice. The practiced person knows too much to be comfortable. The novice doesn't know enough to be uncomfortable. What looks like confidence from the outside is, functionally, the absence of calibration. The next time someone in a room sounds more certain than you, stop reading it as a sign they know more. Read it as information about the size of their map. What the map doesn't show you is not random. And the shape of what is missing tells you something precise about what formed that person. The performance threshold. Performed confidence has a specific tell. It doesn't degrade under pressure. It escalates. When someone operating from genuine competence encounters an unexpected problem, they get quieter, more specific, and slightly slower. When someone operating from performed confidence encounters the same problem, they get louder, more general. Watch yourself in the moment a plan breaks down. Notice whether your voice drops or rises. Notice whether your language gets more precise or more expansive. The escalation pattern isn't dishonesty. That is what makes it worth examining carefully. It is a nervous system response, an automatic reach for the signals that have historically made the threat go away. If projecting certainty has ever worked for you, your body learned that it files it as a solution. And now, under pressure, it deploys that solution before you've had a chance to choose. The performance isn't a choice. It is a reflex that got rewarded. This is where the pattern becomes structurally dangerous rather than just socially interesting. Once a reflex has been rewarded, it doesn't wait for the right situation. It shows up every time the threat profile is similar enough. Which means the louder, faster, more general version of you might be the version making decisions in the moments that matter most. Start watching your speech rate under pressure, not as a correction, as data. The rate is telling you which system is currently running. The system that runs under pressure was built long before you had any say in its construction. But it can be read, and what it reveals is more specific than most people are prepared to see. The approval architecture. Genuine confidence operates in a different direction than performed confidence. Not a different degree, a different orientation. Performed confidence moves outward toward the room. It is calibrated by how the room responds. Genuine confidence moves inward toward a set of internal criteria that the room can confirm but does not create. You can feel the difference in your own body. After a conversation where you performed well, the room responded. The laughter landed. The point was accepted. Notice whether you feel full or whether you feel like you are waiting for something. Fullness is internal confirmation. Waiting is the signal that the external confirmation didn't actually complete the circuit. The appetite for external confirmation is not a character flaw. It is a structural feature of how approval-based learning works. And most developmental environments in this country are approval-based. You are shaped to read the room and adjust. That was adaptive. What it created as a side effect is a confidence that has its generator located outside your body. You produce the output, but the fuel source is somewhere else. Psychologists studying what they call contingent self-worth self-evaluation that rises and falls with external feedback. Find that this pattern is not correlated with performance failure, which is the counterintuitive part. High performers exhibit it constantly. The performance stays intact. The internal experience is one of permanent, low-grade audition. The practical visibility of this is simple. Notice who you are scanning after you speak. You are scanning for something. What you are scanning for is the generator. The generator can be moved, but not through effort and not through repetition of the behaviors that feel like confidence. The relocation happens upstream of behavior entirely, which is where most approaches to this miss the mechanism completely. Picture a specific kind of person. Not exceptional, not particularly ambitious. Someone who manages a small team at a mid-sized company in a mid-sized city. They're competent. Their team respects them without particularly fearing them. In meetings with senior leadership, they speak last and briefly. Privately, they're the person colleagues go to when something actually breaks. They don't have an impressive LinkedIn. Their opinion of their own work is measured and slightly skeptical, and they would never describe themselves as confident. Almost everyone in that organization operates slightly below their actual capability, because this person is not performing loudly enough to shift the room's sense of what is possible. That absence is costing the organization something real, and it is costing this person something they haven't been able to name. The cost isn't opportunity. The cost is coherence. The identity gap. There is a category of person who is behaviorally confident and psychologically unconfident simultaneously. And these two states don't reconcile over time the way you might expect. The behavior doesn't gradually convince the interior. Instead, the gap between them widens, because the evidence accumulates on the outside, while the internal evaluator applies a discount rate to everything it receives. You might recognize this as imposter syndrome. But that framing is too gentle, and it stops the analysis too early. What is actually happening is a split verification system. Your external performance gets evaluated by one standard. What you produced, what they said about it, whether it worked. Your internal performance gets evaluated by a different standard entirely. What you noticed yourself not knowing, where you felt uncertain, how close you came to getting it wrong. One system is measuring outcomes. The other is measuring the interior experience of producing them. Ordinary people, not the exceptional, not the broken, exhibit this split constantly. Teachers who produce consistently excellent students, who privately believe they got lucky every year. Engineers who solve genuinely novel problems and experience this as accident rather than capability. The pattern is not rare. The pattern is common enough that the researchers who study it stopped calling it a syndrome and started calling it a phenomenon. The application isn't reassurance. It is recalibration of which system you are using to evaluate the evidence already in your possession. The identity layer is this. If your internal evaluator has a structural discount rate, if it systematically devalues what the external record shows, then the identity you are constructing from that evaluation is not inaccurate, because you are wrong about yourself. It is inaccurate because the instrument is miscalibrated, and you haven't questioned the instrument. The stillness signal. The most reliably accurate indicator of genuine confidence is not what someone does when things go well. It is what happens in their body during the 2 seconds before they respond to something unexpected. People operating from performed confidence fill that 2-second window. They don't let it exist. The response begins before the thought is complete, because the pause itself feels like exposure, like the room will read the silence as a deficit. People operating from genuine confidence let the pause happen, not as a technique, not as a practiced behavior, because their nervous system isn't registering the room's attention as a threat. That 2-second window is the whole story. Everything else, the word choice, the tone, the posture, is downstream of what happens in those 2 seconds. Behavioral economists studying decision patterns under social observation have found that the speed of response is one of the most consistent predictors of whether someone is operating from actual analysis or from a threat response pattern that mimics analysis. Faster under scrutiny almost always means the threat system engaged. Slower almost always means the prefrontal cortex stayed online. Start noticing the 2-second window in conversations that matter to you. Not to slow yourself down artificially, to find out whether the window exists naturally. If it doesn't, you've located exactly where the performance begins. The identity question is quiet and worth sitting with. The person you present when the room is watching. Is that person arriving or being deployed? The philosophical detonation. Confidence was never a trait. It is a byproduct. Something that forms when a person's internal assessment of their capability is consistently accurate, and when the cost of being wrong has been met without catastrophe enough times, that the nervous system stops treating uncertainty as emergency. What most people are performing is not confidence, but the memory of a time when performing confidence worked, replicated now as a strategy instead of a state. The Dunning Kruger Effect is not primarily a story about ignorance. It is a story about feedback loops. Specifically, about who receives accurate feedback and who receives social accommodation disguised as feedback. People who have been accommodated most of their lives carry that accommodation inside them as a false floor. They are not wrong about their capability. They are wrong about the accuracy of the data they've been given. Genuine confidence, when you are close enough to observe it carefully, looks almost indistinguishable from indifference. Not because the person doesn't care, but because their self-assessment is no longer dependent on the outcome of any single moment. The performance ends when the interior finally becomes the source. The controlled exit. The room doesn't make you confident. The room reveals which confidence architecture you arrived with. And it has been doing this your entire adult life without your permission. What is documented here is one layer of a deeper behavioral structure. The layers beneath it govern how people respond to authority, to failure, and to sustained invisibility. And they operate with considerably less mercy than this one. Here is the diagnostic. Think of the last time you were certain about something in front of other people. Locate specifically where that certainty was coming from. Whether it originated inside you or whether it was assembled from the signals in the room. Take the time you need. The answer is already there. The question is whether you are willing to accept what it tells you about where you've been generating yourself from.